Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Stephen King podcast. It's been a while, but we're finally finished our running and caught up to The Running Man. And this was another Stephen King movie released in 2025, this time directed by Edgar Wright. This is the second adaptation of the novel, and it's quite a bit different from the 1987 film that, of course, starred Richard Dawson and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, I don't know if there's some carryover from there in terms of tone, but we can get into that. But to help me on this race around the country, I've got my two co-hosts, Jesse. Hello, Jesse.
Hello, Lou.
And Karen.
Hello.
And I'm going to ask you a question at the top that I'm going to ask you to answer at the end. So just put this in your hat and think about it while we're talking. There were five, was it five? Stephen King films were released in 2025. The Monkey, The Life of Chuck, The Long Walk, four films, sorry, and The Running Man, as well as a TV series, Welcome to Derry. I'm wondering where you would place The Running Man in all of that, if based on what you've seen. And so think about that while we're talking, and we'll get that answer at the end of the episode. In the meantime, let's talk about the Running Man movie. The story for the uninitiated, I can't imagine though anybody that's listening to this podcast is not a Stephen King fan, because otherwise, why would you be listening to it in the first place? Is we're talking near future United States. The U.S. is ruled by an authoritarian media network called the Network, obviously enough, and most viewers live in poverty, have little access to health care, and the network provides them with trashy TV shows, I guess you could say, which are much more violent than anything that we have today, though, some of the stuff that you get from other countries can be pretty violent. The premise of the show is if that you can um, survive for 30 days, you will get $1 billion, which goes to show inflation has hit this premise, because it was much less in the original version of that. And three contestants are given $1,000 on a 12-hour head start, and then they're chased down by I guess you could say a professional hit squad by the game show, as well as citizens can identify and call in for rewards if they spot the running people. And um, there's a lot more we can talk about here, but Jesse, I'll come to you first. Your overall thoughts of the movie.
So I quite enjoyed this one as for what it was. There is, it's just a popcorn thriller. Um, I did think there was a couple of nice wrinkles in it. Um, I've seen a couple things with Glen Powell in it, and I think he's very charismatic on screen. Like he was really good in this show, Hitman, the movie. So yeah, I enjoyed it the first time, and then I rewatched it for this, and kind of liked it a little bit more. Kind of looking at it from it's not a huge uh it is a very on the nose social commentary about bread and circuses, but it still was fun.
Okay. Karen, how about you?
Yeah, it's a good time, right? The the thing I disliked about the Arnold movie was how campy it was. Uh, it was a product of its time, definitely. That I feel like a lot of Stephen King adaptations were played for this over-the-top campiness. And I feel like they wanted to make this one grittier, more realistic, but also have that feel of, you know, it's it's going to be fun watching this. And I think Edgar Wright has a way of doing that. And I'm a huge fan of his movies, and um, I feel like that he's done pretty proud. I mean, it's not going to win an Oscar, but it's fun, I thought.
Okay, so we're gonna come back to you, Karen. Let's talk about the cast. Glen Powell, William H. Macy, Lee Pace, Michael Cera, Amelia Jones, Daniel Ezra, James Lawson, Sean Hayes, Coleman Domingo, and Josh Brolin. Pretty good cast. And who did you particularly like and had fun with in this movie?
Michael Cera, his character was fantastic and a big departure from the nerdy kid that he's usually playing. Glen Powell, I thought was great as well. I appreciate him very much. I first saw him in Set It Up, which was one of the Netflix romances, enemies to lovers kind of thing. He was great in that. But Anyone But You, Twisters, Hitman, that sort of thing. I just feel like he's a good guy and a pretty good actor, and so he's fun. And I feel like there were quite a few actors in this that I really dig. Lee Pace is someone that I have liked since Pushing Daisies, and uh, I feel like he played a role that it was only on the plane, right? It could have been anyone else in that mask, but you really only see his acting right there at the end. So it's hard for me to say I appreciated him. He did a great job with that. And I thought that William A. Mace, H. Macy might have been in it a little bit more. Um, I, I have soured a little bit on him. I think he's a great actor, but his stupid wife and all those scandals and going to jail and all that, Felicity Huffman I'm not a fan anymore. But I think his acting is unparalleled, and he was pretty funny in this too. So, yeah, just a great cast and a few SNL crossovers as well. The voiceover part was played by, and I'm gonna forget his name now. Oh my goodness. He plays Trump on SNL right now. His last name's Johnson, but James Austin Johnson, and also the kid who is he's got curly hair and he's like the idiot that gets killed first. He is part of Do Not Destroy, which is kind of like the new Lonely Island, and they did make little videos for SNL. He's still connected with the show, and his father does a lot of stuff with Adam Sandler, and he is connected to SNL as well. So I like that. I'm a huge SNL fan, big time, and especially Lonely Island stuff. So seeing this kid and James Austin Johnson were in it was fun. I know I'm getting off track, but and Rich Hall, also SNL connection, but he was fantastic as the homeless dude. Um, I enjoy him as well. He's American. He was on SNL, but he also was on many episodes of QI, and I'm a huge fan of that show as well. So I don't know if you guys know what QI is, but it's a British show. QI stands for quite interesting. And Stephen Fry was the host until a few years ago, and then Sandy Toksvig took over for him. And it's like a panel show where they ask questions and they ask, to see what the people on the panel. It's Alan Davies is always on the show, and then the other three are comedians or other people. And it's pretty funny, but you also learn a lot. Again, I'm getting off track, but Rich Hall was on that quite a bit, like one of the very few Americans that was ever on the panel. So I love that we're seeing those connections. I'm seeing those connections that I dig.
Okay, Jesse.
Yeah, I thought the cast was very interesting. Um, very, as I said, I thought the lead was really captivating. Uh, you know, the our big bad, the head of the network, Brolin, is always interesting, and this the idea. Part of me is I have questions about like, well, if there's only one network, do you really have to worry about ratings? Or, maybe there's others. I don't know. I also, the scenes at the very beginning where it looks like suburbia, and but I guess that's how it looks, not in the basically slums. But yeah, I thought really great. I, on the other hand, forgive Felicity Hoffman because of Sports
Mm.
Night, and
Oh
she's
yeah. I mean, I loved
yeah,
her on Sports Night.
yeah,
I
and
did.
she's actually been very good in Doc this season,
Mm.
playing the head of surgery for that with a secret. So yeah, in a lot of ways you feel like it was a wasted Macy having that small of a part. But he added to it. Yeah, some really cool cast members. So yeah, I liked it, and I thought the female uh, candidate had a little bit of charisma. I did not recognize her for anything, but I thought she was really good on camera.
Mhm.
All
Katie
right.
O'Brien
Okay.
is her name in real life.
Yeah, she kind of stood out for me too. Um,
Yeah.
the cast for me was they were good. I don't think anybody really stood out for me. Probably maybe Josh Brolin, I think, was probably the most
Mm.
charismatic of the bunch.
Yes.
Glen Powell was okay, but he doesn't, I don't know, he just doesn't have that whatever leading man um action hero kind of whatever it is. Like last night, me and my wife watched War Machine, which is on Netflix, with the lead actor from Reacher. His
Mm.
name's escaping me, but that guy looks like an action hero. Like he's kind of got that Schwarzenegger build to him and that. Gun Pal's, he's obviously a fit dude and that, but he's just I mean, they tried to build up his character through his anger, um, which was interesting, but uh it and I think this goes more into the script. And this is the problem when you're a fan of something and you see adapted, you have to learn to let go of the things that you like about the original source material and just judge the adaptation on its own. But it's hard to do sometimes. Um, and this is the second kick at the can with this particular project. And I don't put The Running Man as one of King's strongest works by any stretch of the imagination, but the tone of that story is a lot angrier than either adaptation has tried to capture. They go more for the laughs. This one's a little less intentional than the Schwarzenegger one, um, but at the same time, there's this inherent goofiness in certain sequences that just, to me, detracts from the message of uh, the perils of an authoritarian society. And this one also, and okay, I'm getting off track. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I go pull back. Just talk about the cast. Um, I did find it a little bit of a Scott Pilgrim reunion as well with that,
Yeah.
and I thought overall for me the standouts were Josh Brolin for the most part, and I thought Coleman Domingo was
Mm.
pretty good, though I still think Richard Dawson had more fun with the role than Domingo did. But
Yeah,
I
he
think like
chewed the scenery, Richard
yeah,
Dawson.
his biggest moment was given away in the trailer, and he says, "This is America, goddamn it!" Like that
Hmm.
was his best line in the movie. So I thought the cast, nothing against them. I thought they all did adequate jobs, and like as you mentioned, Jesse, the girl stood out to me. Probably she had a bit of a spark to her. I liked her character, Jenny Laughlin in the story, and I think that also lent to the probably the most pointed social barb with the fact that those two sort of like hillbilly kids with the shotguns had killed her. Um, so
Hmm.
that was kind of like okay, that was pretty good. Um, so the story starts out with Ben Richards, played by Glen Powell, who is has anger issues. But he also has a moral code or sense of right and wrong, and in an authoritarian society, that is not a good combination. So he's lost all his jobs and he's been blacklisted. Now he has a daughter that's constantly sick and he doesn't have enough money for the medication for her. So he enters into this network with the promise that to his partner that he's not going to go for the Running Man. He just wants to get on one of the other game shows, which he says isn't as dangerous. But from what I saw the clips of those other shows during in the movie. They seem pretty dangerous to me as well. So, um, yeah. So of course he gets in, and James James Brolin, Josh Brolin's character, talks him up because he likes his fire, and he thinks he'll make a good contestant from that perspective. So let's just talk about the opening setup of the movie, Karen. Well, how did you find that play out? And was there anything socially that stood out to you during those sequences?
Yeah, I I'm on a different page than you about Glen Powell. Uh, I mean, I respect your opinion, but I think he makes a good main hero. So uh, I might have enjoyed his part more than you. Uh, but I thought it was really cool that he knows who he is, that he does need to get his job back in order for him to support his family. And it showed that he's dedicated to things. He is committed to things. He's committed to his family. That is shown throughout the movie where he refuses to cheat on her, even if he realizes he might not go home. He does everything for his daughter, and he was like a whistleblower when he saw something that he thought was wrong in his jobs. And there was a note when he goes to see that guy to get his job back, and he said, I brought my kid with me, not to guilt you out, but so I don't kill you. Uh, that I kind of like that too, where it shows he knows who he is and he doesn't really apologize for it. So yeah, I thought that informed him quite a bit, just those opening scenes. And he steadily throughout the movie gets angrier and angrier and angrier. I think that his intention all along was to get on the Running Man, that he realized he wasn't going to make enough money on the other ones. And so he just lied to his wife so she wouldn't worry about him, and went straight there. So,
Okay, Jesse.
I I also think that he's the right choice for this movie, as he isn't a Jack Reacher character or an Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is just a quote unquote normal guy, versus someone who has this massive strength, or he's smart and he makes, fairly good decisions, but this is not, I liked him. Um, I don't know if he was planning to do The Running Man or not, but I think when Brolin makes that, like right now, I will give you money that can be used for medicine. You can fix, that's today's problem. Staying alive is tomorrow's problem.
Hmm.
And so, you know what? I'm going to fix today's problem and just not worry about it. I thought it was very sad that, William T. Macy's like, yeah, I was going to bring you on. I was like, well, are you making enough money to actually pay him anything and afford health insurance? But okay, we'll move forward. So yeah, I like this idea of he played more of a normal, everyday person, and that's partly why people got behind him.
Okay. Um, so we have the setup. I think actually, um, in terms of the story, I think that this is executed pretty well. I thought that the dynamic between Ben Richards and Josh Brolin's character, Killian, I thought that that was played out well, and it sets up this good confrontation between them. Um, and we have Ben's gets his head start uh, and uses that to change his identity by visiting William Macy. And during that portion of the movie, we see that the first character is like pretty oblivious to the how serious it is because he's trying to talk up a girl in a convenience store and things like that, and then he's quickly dispatched. And uh, so that lends that's reminding us that yeah, this is the impacts here are serious, and the implications of what's going on in the story are in fact true. But it's also interesting to watch that play out because because these things are being televised, it sort of undercuts the seriousness of the situation. And I think this is a common thing in society today, that I think people get disconnected from violence. And I think this is further perpetuated by social media, in that where we've all become like a nation of virtual car drivers, you know, with our fists raised up in the air, yelling at everybody else, because we're not intimately physically involved with what's going on. We're just observers, and I think this is the part of the movie that I think works quite well, because it's turning everything into a a disconnected game show, and I think that's the part of the movie that worked the best for me. And Jesse, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the earlier bits with William Macy and the dispatching of the first contestant in that.
Yeah, one of the things that I think makes this a little bit better than a normal, um, probably, thriller is the YouTube commentary of the unwritten rules of the Running Man, explaining that the at the end where you explore possibly like, the ending is what the ending is, and then you get a rewind and going, wait a minute, maybe that's just what you want you to know when you do it. So
Hmm.
I thought that was very timely,
Hmm.
because there are plenty of people who don't watch episodes, they just watch YouTube recaps,
Right.
right? They don't spend the time. Like, hey, in 15 minutes, I can watch this episode that's going to take me an hour and I'll get everything I need to know.
Right.
Or, okay, now um, sometimes I will go, okay, well, I need to read the recap to know what's going on and kind of get some feeling. What did I miss? So I thought that was really well done. Uh, the actor who played the YouTuber had a part on um, a CW show that was all about All American, about high school football. Not quite as good as Friday Night Lights, but not close to anywhere close to Friday Night Lights, but it was an interesting show. Um, and I like the angle and kind of I'm going off topic a little bit here, but not everyone was about, okay, I'm gonna sell my soul to make this money. A lot of people were, at least a few people were like, no, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. And so he does find some help versus you would think that almost everyone would be like, hell yeah, I can make it, things are as bad as you want. And they're selling the story. This is a bad guy. All three of these people are horrible people. And as a society, because this is America, right? That we're going to take justice in our own hands. We've talked about that a lot on different shows we've in movies we've discussed on this this podcast. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why this is better than you're doing it. Now, I think I've read The Running Man once,
Hmm.
50 years ago, maybe. Or whenever, like when it just came out. So I have no connection
Hmm.
to it. Isn't like the Dead Zone or something else that I
Hmm.
adored.
Right.
To me, it's like, okay, yeah. But if you are someone who loves the source material, this could go, well, it just isn't what I want it to be.
Right. Right. Karen.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, it was a Bachman book even. So a lot of people didn't realize it was a Stephen King book until he came out and said, I'm also Richard Bachman, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that it was a secret for very long, but still. Um, I think that we are very desensitized to violence, and they make a point here to show that it's gotten worse over time. We're desensitized to everything. And I think anyone who's a Stephen King fan, and I don't want to lump myself in with everyone here because I don't think it's a portrait of everyone, but I have an incredibly dark side where I'm interested in things that are morbid, um, or, just dark things. It's not a major part of my personality, but I do think that some of that is because I have become desensitized to that. And so it's interesting to me and not horrifying to me, if that makes sense. And I do
Hmm.
think that that's a part of this. I mean, we see that Jansky, he's the idiot recruit,
Right.
um, that he's that embodiment of youth that thinks they're invulnerable. Uh, and he's even, cocky enough to not be hiding, essentially. He's just out there doing his thing, hitting on people and saying, "Hey, do you see me on TV?" Or that guy that looks like me on TV, his disguise is nothing. And realizing that at the last minute that he's done the wrong thing, I think is also, it shows that his character is just incredibly naive and oblivious. I
And
also, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Karen. Yeah, and
No.
I think that's right. I know they kind of sell that by, oh, that's what they're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
but um, we used. I'm sad to admit that I used to watch The Apprentice,
Mm,
and then I would watch Celebrity Apprentice. But when it was the regular Apprentice, we would often say, "Have you never watched the show?" Right? Like
mm.
you should know the
Yeah,
rules
yeah,
of
yeah.
this. And so I'm
Hmm.
like, does this guy not watch the show? Right? Like how would he not realize, oh my goodness, there is a good chance that anyone I'd say is
Hmm.
going to kill me.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that is all across the board of reality shows. Did you watch the show? Do you know what the whole point of this is? Getting upset about something that is an inherent part of the show. The Traitors, Love is Blind. A lot of the people I feel like they just have no idea what they're in for because they haven't informed themselves. And yeah, he is definitely that guy. And also Laughlin, the girl
Yeah.
recruit, I think she's great as well. She, again, she's making a spectacle of herself, thinking she's invulnerable as well, partying and out, you know, celebrating every day, which is something that we should all celebrate, people that seize the day. But in this case, did you watch the show? Like Jesse said, hide. You need to go hide. And it's showing that it's similar to real life where people are, they've seen violence so often that they feel like it's not a real thing. And so these two kind of magnify that in a comical way, but in real life, it's also true that I think a lot of people, and I, I hate to bring things like that up, but like mass shooters, I think
Hmm.
sometimes don't understand the gravity of that, um, or they don't care because they're just so desensitized to violence. Uh, and anyone who commits a violent crime in that case, and also people that run from the police. I'm thinking to myself, do you not realize what you're doing? You're making the situation worse for yourself. And also, you're putting your life in danger. But, they see in fiction that if you run from the police, it's okay. Uh, and these two are embodiment of people that don't get what they signed up for.
Yeah, they represent the society that they're in, and I think that Jesse, and we talked about this when we were talking about the Walking Dead, the, not the Walking Dead,
The Long Walk.
the Walk. Sorry, the the big lift in both of these stories is that you have to believe that people are desperate enough to put themselves in this situation. Uh,
Yeah.
I think in The Long Walk, they did that by showing how poor everything was and how hopeless everything was. Whereas in this one, because the tone is a bit lighter, or
Yeah.
a lot lighter, it undermines the seriousness of the situation. And then, so you just kind of have to go along with it. Okay, yeah, I, I I'm going to go along with the fact that these people are crazy enough or desperate enough that they're going to put themselves in this situation. But it still undermines the uh, impact, the potential impact of the story. And that's a big ask to, it's for us in our current situation, uh, where our basic needs are being met, at least right now, hopefully for the rest of our lives. Uh, but in these societies where people's basic needs aren't being met, you could understand, um, potentially you could understand why they would put themselves in harm's way. But I think it's incumbent upon the storytellers to sell that to us. I think in The Long Walk they did, but I don't think in this movie they do. And you could put that down just to tone. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
I think on the long walk, you get nothing for contributing, for participating, and only 1 out of 50 is going to make money.
Right.
On this, if you last even one day, your
Mm-hmm.
family gets something.
Okay. Fair point.
Versus the long walk, you get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I actually now to jump ahead, I think the long walk is a better movie
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of reasons. But as far as reason why, I think this is much more okay. Yeah, I could see why he would do this because calculations, if I can last a week,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd be like, even I would be dumb enough to think, okay, what I need to do is I find some place where even though everything is being watched, right? Like, can I find some place to hole up and kind of dodge for a while?
All right.
Get in a
Yeah.
car and just keep driving.
On the same note, I don't think Jansky and Laughlin were in it for the money.
Yeah.
I think, like present day reality, they're looking for fame, glory. Uh, they want to be seen. They
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
want their 15 minutes.
Uh,
And
to be a glorious death, right?
right, right. And that's essentially what's going on in real life as well. These people could have their lives ruined. They could get quote unquote canceled because they're looking for their 15 minutes of fame. And they don't realize the bad side of that. They they're not learning their lessons from other people that have gone on these shows and shown the worst part of themselves. Uh, so it's identifiable, I think, that uh real life that happens too. These people aren't going on the show for money. I mean, they want the money, but they're going on the show to promote themselves so that after the show they're still famous, and I'm putting air quotes around that. They're going to be influencers or entrepreneurs or whatever, and they're getting their boost from you know, like I said, The Traitors, Love is Blind, all those other shows that are out nowadays where more shallow people are on. And I feel like that's a heightened version of that in this movie, is that they just want fame. They want their 15 minutes.
Mm.
And, if they last, which I don't know if they're even thinking about that, but if they last, then and it's shown with Jansky where he's trying to capitalize on the fact that he's on the show. Uh, they're thinking that it's going to lead to a life of notoriety down the road. And I don't think Ben is much more practical, and he's only doing it for the money. He doesn't care about being known, being seen on TV. He'd rather not be seen on TV, but he gets that's where it's coming from. I don't know. Is that making sense at all?
Yeah, yeah, I get you. It's both of you have brought up interesting viewpoints. Uh, I don't totally I don't agree with Jesse's, and I think that yours is interesting as well. But that's good that we're having this conversation about it. I think the big point of what's going on, like with these street contestants, is Ben Richards is the only one that has something to live for, is what it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to, right? So his motivation is much more grounded, whereas the other ones are uh, seemingly just wandering through life with no purpose. So I think that that's part and parcel of what's playing into it as well. So interesting conversation. Uh, I think that the fact that the show is giving them some money is that justification for putting your life on the line more than in the long walk? I I guess that'll be up to individuals to decide. But it's uh, it's a slightly different dynamic for sure. And I can see it from what Jesse's good point about at least they're getting some money, but the two contestants that get killed don't seem to have any family. At least the movie doesn't go into any depth about that. So I just assumed that the money's going back to the network anyhow. Um, I think I, I I could run through all the various locations that Ben Richards goes through for the movie, but I'll just let you guys pick on pieces of that based on the further discussion points I want to talk about. There's a couple of points that I find interesting in this movie because it's a newer movie. It obviously reflects the current state of technology much better than the 19 or the Schwarzenegger movie, and what's interesting, especially really current, is uh, AI and deep fakes. And we see that uh, another thing about authoritarian societies is they're promising equality or where everybody's treated the same, but the game is rigged, and they're using deep fakes to distort Ben's message and turn him out to be the bad guy. So Karen, I just want you to dwell on that. I find the interesting thing and hopeful thing about the movie is even through all the manipulation, the truth still comes out, and Ben still becomes a hero of the people, which is probably one of the most positive aspects of the movie for me.
Yeah, uh, I think it's incredibly, and I'm going to use the word again, naive, for them to think that they're being told the truth. Hey, no one's going to trace this. Yeah, they're going to trace it. Uh, they're they have ways of I wouldn't be surprised if they implanted chips in these people to track them. I mean, they they are in it for the drama, and they know that people getting killed is their bread and butter. And they show that with the Sean Hayes part, with um, the other reality show where the guy's running on a like a hamster wheel, right? That's definitely rigged.
Yeah,
They ask him an easy question and he gets it right, and then they ask him a question that's like, completely
impossible.
obtuse and
Yeah,
impossible to answer.
yeah.
And in that case, hey, he's going to speed up. And they made sure to get a guy who's way out of shape. They're not going to get Glen Powell to be on that show, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they would never put him on that show because he would be able to jog through the whole thing. And they get this guy that is out of shape, and I mean, it seems like that's the status quo of
Hmm.
that type of thing. They get people that they can use for their purposes, and they make sure that it's people that they can exploit.
Hmm.
And I think, one of the main points of shows like this, movies like this, are you underestimate the hero, that they have, again, been lured into this false sense of security where they always get the result they want, and so they expect that to be the case. And they didn't realize that by getting Ben as a contestant, that they were going to get the result that they got, which
Hmm.
is the destruction of the show. And uh, that's kind of the motivation behind these movies is, well, you underestimated the guy that you're rooting for, and so he wins in the end. And uh, you know, essentially that's what this movie boils down to, is it shows that the network thinks that they're always going to win, and our hero thwarts them at every turn.
Hmm.
So, and showing that also through him failing several times is part of the formula too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and um the network is counting on everyone wants to be a star.
Yep.
Yep.
Um, you know, I I am guilty of this. I do way too many podcasts. Part of it is to hang with my friends. I'll never forget the first time I was going to do podcast. My lovely bride said, "Why would anyone want to hear what you have to say?" Um,
There's a stamp of approval.
yes, and I keep that in mind often. But yeah, I mean, this is um, you ask, you know, Ben, right? Okay, you're a star, so we're going to, everyone loves a redemption story. Ben, we are going to pay you a ton of money and you're going to have a spinoff, right? And I thought the other special poignant is when the Brolin character, right, the network commander is like, you aren't going to believe me one way or another. Are they alive? Are they dead? At this
Hmm.
point,
Yeah.
nothing I say you're going to believe. The reality is what I tell you it is.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
the idea we can spend this performance in a way that you were the bad guy and now you're not. Uh, I stuck to The Walking Dead just out of stubbornness till it was, and then I haven't watched any of the spinoffs or sequels. I just don't care.
Hmm.
But the uh Regan, no, who's the Jeffrey character?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, Jeffrey D. Morgan. Yeah.
Negan.
Yeah, I
Negan.
mean, yeah, that actor is so charismatic
Hmm.
that it was easy for us to accept him as now then a quasi someone you should believe in,
Hmm.
partly because he's so charismatic. In
Right.
real
Hmm.
life, you wouldn't have done that, but because he is so charismatic, the writers were able to push a little bit and have him a redemption arc that in
Hmm.
reality, no, nothing he could done would ever redeem himself.
Right.
But, so I think that's realistic. Like, oh, now then they, and as Bobby said, core number one is your family is going to be protected,
Right.
right? Or else no one would do this. And we've now became the bad guy. The good guys have become the bad guys because they've done that. And
Yeah.
I think that was a nice twist.
Very good. Um, One of the maxims for me of a good movie is it's only as good as your villains are, and I think this is an area of weakness in this version of the story. I didn't find that the hitman or the hit guard or whatever you want to call him, none of the characters stood out for me. They had the one character who got killed on the bridge with the explosion. And the decision to keep Lee Pace under mask until the his final scene, I think was a misplaced one. They should have
Yes.
either just kept his mask on the whole movie or unmasking him uh, doesn't really add anything to the story unless you started with him. But I think the biggest failing is like I'm not expecting full backstory for all these characters. Obviously, in a 2 hour movie, that's impossible. But there should have been a scene or two with some interaction between Lee Pace's characters and the rest of the hitman to kind of build up a feeling of like, okay, these people, they have their own story going on because there was none of that. They were basically red shirts,
Mhm.
interchangeable red shirts for the most part for me. And um, I think that's where the movie lacked a sense of urgency is that you never felt like Ben Richards was in danger from any of these guys. So, uh, Jesse, I'm curious about your thoughts about Lee Pace's character, particularly, and the rest of the hit squad in general.
Yeah. Halt and Catch Fire a series that is
Mm,
worth binging if you've not watched it. Set in the 80s, computers, really, really good cast, including Lee Pace,
so
who
good.
plays a not necessarily good person. Um, yeah, I was really happy to see him, but I don't know, and it's easy. We are Monday morning quarterbacking, right?
Hmm.
So I will throw that in there. I don't know, and there is no reason why my opinion matters more to anyone else. But in my opinion, I don't think the shocking reveal that the now killer was the first person who lasted, the 29 days is enough to not have him. I think of and a much better film, right? The Fugitive,
Hmm.
where Harrison Ford says, I'm guilty, and Tommy Lee Jones says, I don't care,
I'm
Hmm.
not
right?
guilty. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
I'm
guilty.
not
Yeah.
guilty. Yeah, and I don't care.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Right.
And we have the whole, naming his gun and the knife is a little just too cheesy. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think once again, this is a fine line between a popcorn film and kind of a social satire. Uh, and so, yeah, I agree with you. You're pulling for him against this. It is almost like a video game, right? Like he is,
Hmm.
and they even show that at the very end, where the more people longer you last, the more money. The poor people you take out, your more money. They have the graphics of showing you've now made this. Um, so yes, it would have been I think a much better film, though a different kind of film, if you had something that, you know, was more a stronger villain. And so
Hmm.
really, Brolin's your villain. The
Yeah.
media
Hmm.
is the villain. And
Yeah.
he does his fair idea of chewing scenery
Yeah.
and the idea and then, and I am very happy at the end when it's looks like he may, get his butt handed to him by the crowd.
Oh yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
dead, Jim.
Ben killed him.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
I yeah, the Hitmen squad, they were automatons. Uh and they
Hmm.
were dumb.
Yeah.
They racing in is never the strategy. And I think Ben was a better strategist. They just, hey, we're in this hallway, and they go to that hallway and they get electrocuted. It's just, okay, whatever. I've got my blinders on. And you mentioned like a video game, NPCs, they have a path
Yeah.
and they go on that path, and, they're not trying to outthink anyone. Uh, and that's why you're the hero in a video game. Uh, that you're different from them because you are a free thinker and you can outmaneuver and all that. So they were literally nothing,
Yeah.
a bunch of nothings with guns. And I think, and as I said earlier, Lee Pace, it, you know, when he's in that mask, he could have been anybody. He could
Yeah.
have been any stand-in,
Yeah.
anybody.
And
Yeah.
I might even argue he was, right? Like they're
Right.
like,
That
yeah,
he didn't actually
we
play
don't
that
need you for this
character.
one, Lee. Yeah.
Right. His only scenes were on the plane. That's
Yeah.
how I feel.
Yeah.
Because he was an idiot. And then it, you're supposed to kind of feel sorry for him when he's on the plane, and there's no impact there.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see more with that. Show us who he was in the past. Why he's turned into this person, why he was manipulated. And yeah, you mentioned it's a 2-hour movie. We're not going to get that, but it would have been way more interesting if he was an actual character, instead of this, hey, right at the end, let's make him into something.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah, automatons, robots, that's all they
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. And to continue a little more Monday morning quarterbacking, I think a much more interesting storyline would have been if they would have just stripped out the other hit guys, focused on Lee Pace's character, and right from the start they should have had him in an antagonistic relationship with Ben Richards, and Josh Brolin, Stan Killian character, kind of playing the two off of each other, and then as the longer Richard survives, the more Brolin would poke Lee Pace's character to say, "Hey, if you don't get this guy, he's going to replace you." Like, build up some tension for this character, give this character some purpose, give us some investment in this his storyline, and there was nothing of that there. And I think that for me, this is the biggest failing of this movie is the antagonists in this movie were weak. They never felt like a threat. They were just more of the decor of the episode or of the movie for me. So that's probably the biggest failing of the movie for me. And then we'll talk about the ending a bit. And this is where I'm going to let my fanboy creep in because I just can't help it.
Please.
Is that in the original story, uh, Ben Richards flies the plane into the tower and kills the network, and there's no audience members there or anything like that. But he sacrifices himself to make a statement about this whole network. And it really irritated me that they did that as a fake out in this movie because I kind of felt like uh that Edgar Wright was wanting to have his cake and eat it too, but it undermined the impact of that mo moment in the story. And I don't know if that was a requirement from King or not, because I know another Bachman book, Rage, which talked about a high school uh, shooter before that ever happened. And, a lot of people point to that as sort of like the match that lit that whole fuel thing. And I'm wondering now that in this post 9/11 world, moviegoers are hesitant to do that story point. But it took a what was a real world, very uh, powerful moment, and in a fictional story that predates that real life occurrence. To me, it just really undercuts that whole um, impact uh, of the point of the story. That people that sacrifices have to be made to overthrow authoritarian societies, and I can understand why. Um, but to me, this is kind of indicative of the difference between movie making and whatnot today versus say like the 70s and that which was much more riskier and daring. So I feel like this is still a castrated version of the story. So Karen, I'll throw it out to you if you have any thoughts on that. I don't know if you were aware of the book ending or not.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
In the book, Ben is already dead though, right? I mean, he has a fatal wound.
Hmm.
And so you're not losing anything with him sacrificing himself. He's already gonna die.
Right.
Um, Now here he does have a wound and we're not sure whether it's fatal or not. Um, they do make that more ambiguous. Uh, I I think that we want the good guy to win in this society, and I think having that is a good thing. I would like to think that we have more optimism, uh, and not being a fatalist might be a good thing. Seeing him win, uh, made me happier. It's unsettling to have someone sacrifice themselves, especially in today's world. Um, and yeah, I do think that there is a sensitivity issue with things like 9/11, being being too on the nose with trauma and all that. Um, I also think that they may have threaded the needle here. He did sacrifice his life essentially to end it this way because he's not with his family. Um, who knows if he can live out in the open with them? They reunite at the end, but it's it's shown that he has to conceal his identity, so he doesn't have the life that he once had. Um, I don't, am I reading more into that than what happened in the movie? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of ambiguous. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he shows up with the mask on and everything. So, part of me thinks that he has sacrificed the life that he used to have. Um, and so that is our, heroic sacrifice. And again, it is ambiguous, but part of me thinks that we need more endings that are hopeful. And so I kind of like that. But I do also appreciate that it doesn't have the impact of that storyline. Like in The Long Walk, um, there's a heroic sacrifice at the end of that one as well. And it's way darker than this.
Mhm.
So that has much more impact than this. But I don't think this is that movie. This movie isn't trying to be that. I don't think this is a popcorn movie. They don't want to make a statement, essentially. I mean, they are playing it as a satire,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but along with Edgar Wright's other movies, there's darkness to them. Like Scott Pilgrim is also, there's a lot of darkness in that, but ultimately it's a popcorn movie. It's an enjoyable movie. Um, and I think that's almost what I appreciate about it is sometimes you can just, get that they're being a satire, but also enjoy the fact that you can kind of turn your brain off and enjoy it for what it is.
Hmm.
So
Fair enough.
I I do get it. I do think that the book was more impactful, but I understand why they've changed it a bit. And the original movie also had that
Hmm.
kind of ending, right? A very
Yep.
fatalistic ending. So,
Yeah. Jesse.
So, you know me, I want a happy ending on any film or TV series I watch. So this, to me, he does, you know, the practical part of me, does the network, like, were they paying him as he goes? So therefore, and did he route the money somewhere so that they couldn't take it back, right? So if that all happened, then he has enough money to set up his family somewhere and they could, he could join them, is my hope. But I also think he doesn't care. He wants revenge. And, um, I understand what this movie is. One of the reasons I didn't want to watch The Long Walk is I realized what that movie was. And when I watched it just for a few minutes and ended up getting sucked into it. Um, and hated it while enjoying it, you
hmm
know.
Hmm.
Um, so this, on the other hand, yes, I want the happy ending as much it could do. I didn't want him to die at the end. I liked that reveal. Like, oh wait, turns out that this, ship had a escape pod, and look, that's what it looks for. I liked all that. And the idea, I thought it was very cool the way it ends with him getting revenge. But once again, I am not attached to the source material.
Yep.
Um, I do think that you may have a good point about overthink. I don't know if you're overthinking it, but I do realize a plane crashing into a building has a different feeling today than it would have 40 years ago, whenever the original series came.
in the
Book
80s. Yeah.
80,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
It has a different feeling.
Yeah.
school shootings, right? The Buffy episode where they were worried someone was going to shoot someone.
Hmm.
It is a different feeling now.
Yeah.
You can't even watch the episode of 13 Reasons Why where he has a gun in the school, and I don't care about that show. I think it's dumb. But I mean, that's just another example of the fact that we are very sensitive to things that we can draw a parallel to something traumatic,
Yeah.
Right.
like a school shooting or like 9/11 or, you know, the Oklahoma City bombing, just for example, on those things. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I really do understand.
Yeah, and again, because I'm a fan of the story, original story, uh, I think the fact that this is a popcorn movie changes the outcome of the story just by that, modulation of the story so that we get a Hollywood happily ever after, quote unquote, ending. Um, but and this is why I like to think that people can sense when the core of a story is being told true to the original property or not, is because this movie didn't really do that well. It didn't
Mm.
make its money back for sure. Um, but the original story is a dark story, and that ending is the ending that I think is true to the concept of the story, whereas this one is taking it and mutating it into something less. And sure, we all like a good popcorn movie now and then. Like I mentioned, War Machine uh, earlier today. That's a popcorn movie, like it's a Predator ripoff. But going into that, because it's an original, quote unquote, original property, so you don't have any expectations. But once you go into something and you know that the source material has this really powerful message, and then you see it, like this is the second time it's been adapted, and in both cases it's mutated the story into my opinion, something less than the potential of what the story was. So I can't really get all that excited about it, and it was funny that as the Stephen King fan on our out of the three of us, that Jesse had already seen this movie before I did, and I, I was dragging my heels on it because I just knew going into it, and that's the bad thing about preconceptions is I wasn't probably going to enjoy this movie as much as an average moviegoer because of my relation to the ship to the source material, and I like to think that I can divorce myself from that, but I'm realistic enough to know that I can't. So I try to give the movie a fair shake on its own grounds. But I think even as a popcorn movie, because of the aforementioned issue with the weakness of the villains, I don't think this movie is the best version of a popcorn movie that it could be either. So uh, you may think I'm talking out of my ass, but that's
No, I
just
agree with you 100% there.
that's kind of where I've landed on that. So.
I mean, I like the ending here, but I
Mhm,
agree with you vehemently about the villains, that
mhm.
they have no little to no impact
Yeah,
in this story. So yeah,
cool.
I get it.
Thank you.
It
I,
wasn't, no,
I feel
you feel
validated.
vindicated.
Yeah.
No, I
And
always appreciate your opinion, always.
Yeah.
Um,
and yeah, I would not have watched this movie again whatsoever
Mm.
yeah,
if we weren't going to talk about it again.
All right.
same.
And when we, and as I said, I enjoyed it a little bit more on the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Just I think, the social commentary part of it.
Right.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't think this is a great movie or even a fun popcorn movie. I just think it did okay for what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
I'd give it a C at best,
Okay. Well, that's
you
kind of
know.
where I am too. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I'd go a little higher because I
Yeah.
had fun watching it, but I do agree that it's weak in parts.
Yeah, which is sad. And then I don't want to expend too much energy on this because I think the Running Man itself, the source material, is not one of my top favorite Stephen King stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just that it's middling, middle of the road King for me. So, whereas with The Long Walk is, it's up in the upper echelon. So I have much stronger feelings about that, and I'm just so glad at how that adaptation turned out. Um, there was another point I was going to make here. Oh, I just I just wanted to I want to thank you both for taking the time to not only watch us once but watch us twice.
Hmm.
So I appreciate the sacrifices that you made. Uh,
Dude, I'm all in on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so that's great. Um, yeah, so as I mentioned off the top, I was going to ask you guys to, Jesse, I'll start with you, to rank where you would put this out of all the 2025 Stephen King adaptations. So I'm curious I guess I have a sense from both of you of where it's going to kind of end up for you.
Yeah, so I did not watch The Monkey, did not care about The Monkey. I don't like horror, so I had no interest in seeing a pure horror movie. So that's an NA. I think Life of Chuck,
DNF did
yeah,
not finish,
yeah,
right?
I did not start DNS.
Well,
DNS,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think Life of Chuck is a beautiful, well-made film
Hmm.
that I enjoyed immensely. I think it's a creative story, and it it moved me and made me sad in a lot of ways, but also made me have a joy.
Hmm.
And so I think it's one of the better Stephen King adaptions.
Okay.
Then I would go The Long Walk, because I did not want to watch that movie, but the performances alone, the
Hmm.
chemistry between the young men walking
Yep.
and the dialogue, I mean, that's a hard movie to film.
Hmm.
Not hard I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's hard physically, but this isn't a lot of elaborate camera shots. It's people talking,
Yep.
Hmm.
but they did it captivating. And then, Running Man, a far three.
Okay. Care.
Same order for me.
Okay.
Although I did background watch Return to Derry,
Mm.
um, and I think I'd put that ahead of Running Man. So this would be fourth.
Yeah, I
And
Hmm.
haven't watched it.
same
Yeah.
Monkey, what? That's essentially, I didn't even, it wasn't even on my radar. I knew it came out last year,
All right.
but it's not something that I ever care about. So I agree. The Life of Chuck was amazing. I thought that movie was incredible. And um, whereas it's one of those movies that if people didn't know it was a Stephen King book, they might not realize it. And I think The Long Walk is the opposite of that. That is definitively a Stephen King story. And they're almost tied for me. They're both really good for what they are in completely different ways. So
Hmm.
those two are standouts for me. And I mean, Derry was good, but it was a TV show, and it showed it was a TV show. It wasn't as good as the newer uh, movies, the newer It films, which I highly enjoyed. Uh, and they weren't even as good as the original miniseries, but they were
Mm.
they were good.
Mm. Mm.
Um, I mean, Tim Curry. I have a weakness for Tim
Yeah.
Curry.
Though
So
I would say the first It movie was better than the miniseries. The second It movie was, yeah, but yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Where they're grown up,
Yeah.
it's not as good, but it's
No.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Bill Hader, so that might be part of it.
Okay.
So this is above the monkey because I didn't see it.
Okay.
But like Jesse, I'm not gonna go seek it out again.
For sure.
Um, I enjoyed it for what it was, though.
Yeah.
It's I didn't watch it thinking this is a great Stephen King adaptation. I watched it as this is an adaptation of a property that people find campy and fun.
Hmm.
I don't think the goal was to make a realistic Stephen King movie. in
Yeah.
this case.
Yeah.
I don't,
Okay.
am I making sense at all with
Yep.
that?
Yeah, for
So
Okay.
how
sure.
about you, Lou?
Yeah, I'm with you pretty well on the top two or three. I if I was younger, I would probably put The Long Walk ahead of Chuck's Life, but as one ages, I think one tends to get a little more sentimental, or some people may say maudlin, but I just think that the um overall message of Life of Chuck is just you know, at that my stage of life, it's just more um uh, impactful or more relevant to where my worldview is right now. So I can dig the message of the Life of Chuck movie more than I can The Long Walk, though I do think that The Long Walk is, you know, the cast is just
Mm,
stellar. That and that's what carries that one for me, though. I do think that The Long Walk is a pretty cool story. And, you know, again, holds up a mirror to society in that own way that only horror can do. But it's the hallmark of a good Stephen King story is that his best stories have great characters, and that movie has great characters. So that's why I really like that one. Um,
and same with Life with Chuck. Those characters
Absolutely.
were
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
But the stakes were, you know, so much more intensified. That's why their
Hmm.
performances stand out more than in The Long Walk.
Yep.
Um, I would put Welcome to Derry third. I thought that it was pretty decent for it's pretty hard to do horror in a long form.
Yeah.
I think horror works best as a 90-minute movie, maybe
A
pushing
punch.
it pushing like pushing it to 2 hours is prob because it's hard to maintain fear over a long period of time. So the tighter the story, the better the horror. So, but uh there's some good performances in Welcome to Derry. Some of the kid actors in that were amazeballs.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
really loved some of them. And the one child that uh, he got a real great callback, sent back to his final meeting with Pennywise, which I thought was just fantastic.
Mm.
I would put this Running Man fourth, and uh, the monkey I thought was just terrible. You know, the monkey, the story is a riff on the monkey's paw, but um,
Which is
Oz,
an absolutely devastating short story. I remember
yes,
Hmm.
reading
yeah,
that and
yeah,
just like, oh gosh, this is horrible.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But so like the monkey, Osgood Perkins, who's the son of Norm
Hmm.
Perkins, is you know, he basically tries to out Final Destination with this one, and it's just all these grotesque, horrible deaths, and it you know, I've got a high tolerance for that kind of stuff, but it just really turned me off.
Kind
There
of a
was
lowest common
yeah,
denominator
and you know,
thing.
and like there's some good actors like Tatiana Maslany, like you know,
Yeah,
they
from
just
Orphan Black. Yeah.
yeah, and she was just recently in Star Trek Academy.
Hmm.
And she's, you know, like they're just wasted in this movie, and I just can't fathom, you know, like it's got a 60% rating, but I think it's a terrible movie. Probably one of the worst adaptations of a King movie I've seen, and I know other people that kind of enjoy it for you know, for the the gore and gory humor. So if you have that kind of humor bone, and maybe when I was younger again, I would probably appreciate it more. But at my age now, I just watched it and I thought this is garbage, and
It looks really dumb.
I don't have any good thing to say about it. So overall, you know, I think the top three are definitely worth watching, and the top two are, you know, like they're A plus A, easy A plus A, and I put the Welcome to Derry at a B plus. So you know, the you know, 3 out of 5 ain't bad. And even like the Running Man, I'd give it a C, and that's a passing grade as well. So overall, it was a pretty good year for King from a adaptation point of view.
Hmm. And he
So
liked this one too, right?
the high highs, and yeah, they were high. Yeah,
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he seemed pretty pleased with what came out
yeah,
this year. So, I mean, that's always a win.
yeah, yeah. So thank you guys for your thoughts, and listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed our discussion about the Running Man. And with that, Karen, I would ask you to tell people where they can find you if they want to learn more about or listen to what you have to say.
Sure. I'm assuming we're going to cross-post this to JKL Media. So, uh, is that the case, or
Sure,
just
And
Stephen King?
sure,
Okay.
can
nope.
do, can do. Yep.
And
Okay,
I will
cool.
probably put it on Set Listing Bruce.
Okay,
Oh,
cool. Um,
that'll
yeah,
be interesting.
Yes.
so you can find us there at JKL Media Reviews. We're on YouTube uh at that name. And you can email us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. I am at Aleveria, Aleveria on social media, and my blog is allestuff.com.
Jesse.
Yeah, so since this is going to go to almost every one of my platforms except the Doctor Who, I'm going to promote something else. There is a local radio station that I love called The Ticket, and they make jokes about non-disclosure. Like if a guest is going to be on like a TV show, that's non-disclosure. So in the spirit of not doing
Mm.
a non-disclosure, coming up in a couple weeks on Who, What, When, South Carolina Public Radio, I am a contestant on a quiz show that was all about children literature.
Awesome.
And I cannot tell you how I did, because I mean, I had to sign a whole big NDA. No,
Mm.
I did not. I don't want to spoil everything. It was a fun time, and a lot of fun questions about children literature. I did not know the subject going in. All I just
Oh,
volunteered
I
is
was gonna
saying,
say.
just, hey, I'll be glad to be a contestant, and ended up doing pretty well. So it's called Who, What, When. I don't know when my episode is going to be released, but follow it on Spotify or wherever you get it, and give me a like on that. That would be nice.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Sweet. And I am on obviously our flagship station, JKL Media Reviews. We're currently doing The Expanse, waiting for Severance and Pluribus to return. We've got a lot of one-offs there for various TV shows, movies, and music, comic books occasionally. On my main channel or my home channel, Lou's Reviews, we've got our archived episodes of Babylon 5, the entire series, plus the animated movie, as well as my writer interviews, and of course, the Stephen King podcast. And on Twitter and X, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, Sytsma. And until next time, take care and let's be careful out there. Bye bye.
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 And scene.